Hi everybody. How about a nice exercise sequence today using the spine corrector? I love this spine corrector. This is the balanced body Pilates arc. What I love about it is it's so versatile and it's so lightweight, so you can really do so much with it. We start with the lip, which is this lower part, and the barrel, which is here. And there's a couple of times when I will actually turn it over, flip it, and the two pieces come apart. So I'll show you what that looks like. The Pilates spine corrector is such a great way to really reinforce your core, your stamina, and a lot of strength as well. So I'm going to start out here with my feet parallel. I'll show you some modifications that you can make if you have osteoporosis, but this is not really an exercise sequence for osteoporosis because it starts out with a C curve or a little bit of coming back to the barrel. In this case, I get some nice feedback from my body in how to always be drawing in my core muscles and layering down as I articulate my spine rather than dumping, which I catch people doing a lot. So in this capacity here, I have my sit bones down. I'm going to pull my belly up and in, and then I'm going to start to come down very gradually until I make some contact here. At the base, I take a breath, and then as I exhale, I'm peeling off in reverse, drawing the abdominals in and feeling my legs support me as I go up and down. Now, if you have any tension in your arms, you could hold on to something here. Interlacing your hands is kind of nice. Let's work this up to 8 sequence. Inhale and then exhale, coming down. Here I want to be mindful of peeling up and peeling down in the same way, even across the two sides, and always engaging my abs on the descent and the return. So think of your exhale as your engaging breath. Your inhale is sort of your prep breath. And unfortunately, I always lose count as I'm talking here. So it's roughly 8. That's where I'm going for. Now, at this point, I'm going to try to stabilize through the pelvis as I'm working through the obliques. As I move to my right side, I want to make sure that that left hip stays grounded, and I'm really feeling the reference between the left obliques external on this side and the internal on this side. Take a breath in, and I'm going to reach back and pull in. Now I'm stabilizing through the opposite side. It's almost like you've got some sticky taffy on your fingers and you're trying to bring it off as you reach back. Keep that opposite sit bone grounded. Abs draw in every single time. You really understand the relationship between the two sides of your trunk. Wow. Take a deep breath in, sit up tall. Now, most of us are not able to go all the way back and really let the spine stretch so that we can safely place our heads on there. I do this a lot, so sometimes I'm able to get that back. But instead, I'm going to scoot forward a little on the lip so that when I go back, I will have a place to place my head down here as I start to work a little bit in the lower part of my body. So scoot is where you need to feel that you can square your shoulders here. Now, just start to bring your arms up, back, and around. Here I'm aware of how often I flare my ribs as I bring my arms back because I'm tight in my shoulders. So I'm going to really try to snuggle that in as I bring it up, back, and around. And then I'm going to reverse that as I'm starting to feel the arm bones move around through the glenoid fossa and plug into my shoulder blades. I can do a little bit of backwards movement with my arms. As the arms move back, I'm going to pull the abs in, so there's always this core consciousness that I bring to all of my movements. Reach back. So feel activity and energy in your arms rather than just flinging them back. Now I'm going to just take my hands under my head as I work through my glutes a little bit. Pressing into the feet, pull the belly up and in. I'm just going to lift my hips off of the lip. You'll feel this right away. It's a little bit of a bridge with a base at your upper shoulders. I love this because most of us are gluteal amnesiacs. We don't really work our butt muscles. We just sit on them all the time. This is a great place to get that out of your habit and engage. Work in the glutes. Then press in there, hold it in a nice tabletop position, combining the hip and the shoulder work. It feels so good. And then slowly release. Okay, now I'm going to turn this on the side as I start to get a little bit of lateral work. So this is called a Z-sit. Now, some people don't feel comfortable with their hips like this, in which case you can straighten the leg out, or you could even sit sort of catty corner like this. What I want you to do, though, is level out your pelvis. So in my case, I'm going to make sure that my leg bones are sort of hugging into the sides so that I'm not shifting my pelvis as I go to the side. Then I'm going to slide down here and stretch my upper arm. I'm going to clasp the upper wrist with my bottom hand and give myself a little pull. And that feels so delicious that I'm going to stretch out through the left leg. Really feel that whole side body opening up. Then I'm just going to rest my head onto the arm and circle the arm around 3 times in each direction, because we all need that lubrication in our ball and socket joints. Now from here, I'm going to just keep that pelvis quiet as I rotate through the trunk like a melting butter over popcorn, and then draw back, supporting my head as I come into extension. So drawing the abs in on the exhale. Inhale, draw back. Keep the low belly active as you go back so you're not arching into your low back. From here, I'm going to prop up from the bottom position. Now, if this doesn't feel good in your body, you could always take your hand to the floor, but this really suits me here. Now, I'm trying to stay active in my obliques as I'm working through the glute medius and the side hip muscles. Your hip is where the femur bone drives into the acetabulum. You don't want to move from your pelvis. So I'm keeping my hand there to make sure that I'm keeping that in a small space, lengthening, pushing the hip up. We'll do about 5 to 6 in each movement. Now, once I've got it up to that height, I'm going to really try to press and strengthen out. Notice that I'm pressing the leg out from my hip rather than just straightening the knee. That really jazzes up that muscle and makes it even harder. Keeping the leg at the height of the hip, I'm going to flex as I kick forward into side-lying leg position and point coming back. Kick, kick, and point back, drawing the abs in, keeping your head, neck, and shoulders long. It's really not a good idea to look at the camera. And then back. Then I'm going to press up from there, take a nice little counter stretch. It feels amazing. Now, let's go to the other side. So I'm going to take it and I'll adjust the position so you can sort of see it here, setting myself, neutral pelvis, and a little faster. I'm going to reach over there, stretch the leg, clasp the arm, give myself that yummy, yummy side stretch. Then I'm resting my head in my hand and just reaching through the arm bone about 3 times in each direction. Keep pulling the abdominals in and releasing the tension at the neck and shoulders. Then I'll take my body into rotation, keeping the hips square and feeling that work in the trunk, opening up to your point of control. You don't want to feel any stress in your low back. One more. And then come up. So I'm going to prop this head up. This reminds me that these waist muscles shouldn't be lazy down there. We're really trying to think about engaging all the way through the bottom side and the top side. So just lifting this leg as you flex your foot. The leg weighs a lot, right, if you think about it. So this looks easy, but it's not, particularly when you get your abdominals engaged with that. Now, bend the knee and push out through the hip bone. So strengthen those glutes. Such an important part of our postural support, our back health. This is a fantastic little series right here. It feels great. Then I'm going to kick forward, and I'm not letting the leg drop below the height of the hip. In this way, I'm working through my inner thighs called my adductors. We'll call it 2, and abs in as we reach back, flex forward for the hamstrings and back into the quadricep. And then I'll come back up, take a nice counter stretch. Anything that feels good. Okay, so What might we do after that? Well, I really like to turn this and this side and do even more abdominal work. There's so many things you can do here. Now in this position, it snuggles me in here very nicely. I wouldn't want to be here if I have osteoporosis because that would be a little bit compressive right in there. Now I'm going to take my hands behind my head, and as I press my feet down into this, I have a sensation of my glutes really stabilizing me as I start to go back in a hinge and come up. A little harder, right? Now I certainly could go into a bit of a scoop here, but I could do it in a little bit more of a flat back as well. And then I could add to that, sort of like a reverse, we call them toe taps. Pulling the abs in as the leg comes forward, and then I could do it a little bit like crisscross. Working one armpit to the knee, belly in, keeping all of that stable. It's crazy hard, but at the same time, you really have this sense of the power of your abdominals. Now, could you do any of the abdominals across the barrel? This is a little rough surface, so if you wanted to put a mat or something down over that, you could. All of the exercises in the series of 5 can be done on the ladder barrel or on this. I'm going to take this for single leg stretch and double leg stretch. So I'm going to take my hands as I reach out, exhale, inhale, exhale, really trying to keep myself in a neutral alignment. And I felt myself coming up a little high. So I'm going to kind of retract my chin a little bit, pulling the abdominals in. Stretch and reach. If I had osteoporosis, I would do this on the floor. I would not do it right here. And reach. Good. Now we're going to do double leg stretch. Trying to drop down in what we call our T-point here, right at the xiphoid process. Now, as my arms go out, my legs will go out. And I'm going to sweep around and try not to fall off of this thing. Inhale as I reach out and exhale, hugging back in. Feel how much you have to anchor your tailbone and draw your abdominals in to create this effect. 3, exhale. 2, exhale. Last one. And support yourself back up. All right, take a little emphasis off of my abs and work my arms. So many great things you can do here. How about triceps next? So I'm going to take my butt right at the edge of this. I could give myself a little bit of help as I start to slide down. My hands are going to be facing with the fingertips toward my hips. Slide down. And then squeezing the elbows in, I'm just going to slide back up. As I get stronger, I can press and just slide and come off, just hovering off that. Drawing into the arms, pulling the abs up and in. Let's call it 5 and 4, 3, 2, and 1. Oh, I love that so much. All right, what would that look like if I took it from the other end? I love this because it has little grooves that you can hold on here. Now I'm going to feel a little bit more chest stabilization as I work through the lower legs as well. So for most of us, we are kind of cavey in our shoulders here. We call it winging, which means that your serratus anterior, a big muscle on the anterior part of your spine, is not really engaged, especially for women because we have bust lines in there. So first thing I'm going to do is try to draw my arm bones into the shoulder blades and feel like I'm filling up that space. I'm going to try to stabilize that as I send one leg back. And here I'm going to get a little bit of a calf stretch, which feels so good because we're all tight through there. And then I'll try the other leg. Reach it back, trying to create a neutral spine in that position. All right, what's it like if I try to take both of them back? First thing I want to try to do is bring my shoulders over my wrist and inflate my upper back, almost like I've got what we call a Japanese bridge, which is architecturally very strong to hold an earthquake, a building in the earthquake. Here, I can just hold that position. I could do some push-ups here, but I want to work my core, even though I said I wasn't going to. I'm going to bring the right knee in and back. And here, I'm squeezing the abdominals in and trying to stabilize the shoulders and back. Pick up the pace, but make sure that that's being drawn in with your core, not just your hip flexors. I'll do one more set. Pull it in, reach it back. Oh, and then mercilessly take it back into a little bit of a child's pose. So much fun. All right, so now I'm going to come down into some inverted work. Actually, I'm going to turn it this way. If you are doing this work, you're going to make sure you have clear space behind you and something to put your head down here. How you come on and off of this is important. You want to do it in a way that keeps thinking about articulation of your spine. So I'm going to kind of draw myself along this as I slide down and come to the base of the shoulder blades. I always want my low back to be hugging into the spine corrector. So I've got my hands on the sides here, hugging that in. Now, in this position, I'm going to make sure that my neck is free, and then I'm reaching out and engaging through the legs and through the core. I'm going to start with frog, inhale, and exhale, press out. Now, if I had osteoporosis, I would just be on the mat and I'd use a resistance band to press into my leg so that I wouldn't have to skip this sequence, even though you shouldn't do any inversion when you have osteoporosis. From here, I'm going to double leg lower and lift. I'm going to inhale as I bring it up and then exhale, tightening my abs and lower down. Now, you absolutely could do an inhale down and exhale as you bring it up. But whatever you feel that you can get more engagement in your core muscles, that's when you should put your exercise into your exhale into your abs. From here, I'm going to take it and go out and in, a little bit of a fish fin. In this way, I'm pointing out and flexing in, getting a little abduction and a little adduction. Now I'm going to take it into a bicycle. On the spine corrector, you really want to stretch one leg down, hit the lip, drag it in as the other one starts to go. So there's a precision and a lengthening here and drawing the abdominals in as you're stretching through the hip flexors. Imagine that you're in slow motion or one of those old-fashioned bicycles. Then we'll reverse it. Wow, feeling that so much in my hamstring as I stretch and pull in all the way down. To come out of this, I'm just going to slide the barrel away, drape my legs over, take a well-deserved break right here. And this is a nice place to do a shoulder bridge. Bridge is one of my favorite positions. If you have osteoporosis, you wouldn't want to do this. You would just stand down and do a hinge bridge up and an articulated bridge down. Try to find a non-slick surface here. Feet above and pressing down into the barrel. Pull the belly up and in. I'm going to do a bit of a hinge bridge here, coming up no higher than my shoulder blades. I want that nice connection. Inhale and then exhale. I'm going to articulate as I roll down bone by bone, using my abs for support. This next time I'll hold it, so engaging the abs, picking the hips up. You absolutely could take your hands under here and support that movement. I'm going to keep my hands down, bring it up, first to tabletop. Now I'm going to point down and flex up. Create that resistance with the opposite leg so that you're really level through the pelvis. You're working those hips like crazy and you're drawing those abs in. Now change without letting that pelvis shift. Bring it up to tabletop, extend it up, point down, flex up. Feel how you get that hamstring and quadricep connection with each set. And last one, and then take your time articulating down. And then it feels so good to turn your legs out here. Place the pinky toes on. This is a little bit of a cobbler's pose from yoga, which I also teach. And I really love this position here. Feels so really nice to get into the deep six hip rotators. Okay, so we haven't done any extension. Lots of opportunities for this. Again, you may want something that's a little cushy to put over this just because it's a little bit of a hard surface. So I'm going to come forward now and just come where I have my knees roughly about at the lip. And I want to come forward so that I'm getting this idea of how do I open through the chest and articulate through the upper back. Now, most of us are going to try to come into extension from a place where it's easy. In my case, that's in my lumbar spine. So if I will really stabilize my lumbar spine, pressing the thighs down, pull the belly up and in, now it's really more work for me because I don't have a lot of thoracic extension. So wherever that is for you, work where it's hard. Now, see if you can do this into grasshopper. So I'm going to shift myself forward a little bit. I'm going to bend the arms. And now as I press and extend my arms, I'm going to shoot my legs out, beat my heels together, 3, 2, 1, and release. It's kind of fun. A little bit of like a rocking horse. Go down, dive in, press out, straighten the arms, pull the belly in, beat the heels together. And we'll do that twice more. Bend and press. Beat, 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 open through your chest, keep those abs involved, and one more time. And then the real big enchilada that I really like here is swimming. Well, how do you do that? I used to think this is kind of impossible, but it's really like doing spinal balance. So first I take opposite leg and arm, and just see if I can feel this as more extension than high lifting. Then see if you can balance between the two sides. And you may have to kind of find your sweet spot. It's the same thing you were just doing, just opposites. As you work through that, drawing the abdominals up and in, and feeling like you're kind of reach towards the edge of the pool before you collapse or splash into the water. Ha! Sit back again for another child's pose because that feels so good. And release. All right. Last little sequence we're going to do is going to bring this upside down. And I'm going to take this out so that it gives me a nice balance piece. This is really fun for continuing to feel core stabilization, which all of us need. So remembering here where I was trying to really keep myself from winging, now I'm going to try to stretch back and just hold that plank as I'm trying to feel, do I shift too much to the right side, to the left side? I could also do a bend and press back as I try to stabilize there, but this is fine. Just pulling this in, squaring the shoulders, drawing the abs in, and holding that plank. From that position, I'm going to take a nice stretch. I'm going to bring my right foot forward, take a low lunge position, and just hold on to the sides here as I'm stretching through the back hip flexor and into my right hamstring. Now, because all of us need balance help, let's take it into that. It's like a low lunge on the Pilates reformer. I'm going to press my right foot in there, kind of drag my hips under and belly up and in, and feel the front foot and the back foot kind of grounding myself down as I take myself down into the hips. I can challenge that by maybe bringing my arm forward. So I'm having to think about two different things on either side, and shaking is okay because it's just hard. And release it. Let's try that on the other side. I could be here all day. I love this stretch into my hip flexor. Any of us who spend time at a computer, we're going to be tight there. So this is a really important way, and I could soften my shoulders and lead with my heart here. Now I'm going to walk my hands up my thigh and try to find my balance point here. I know that I always leave in that forward tilt. So as I press into the right foot, it helps me stabilize through that hip flexor there. Can root my left hand into the hips, pull the abs up and in, and then try to stretch the arm forward as my gaze follows that front thumb. I'm reinforcing one of the critical pieces of balance, which is your visual perception. If you take that away, then your body has to work harder to try to balance, and it can. But let's use this and release. So I hope you really enjoyed that sequence. There's so many things you can do with this very versatile piece of equipment, and quite frankly, one of the least expensive ones. Hope you enjoy that. I'll see you next time.